we're back with a spoiler review of Fallout 3. Yes, I know Fallout 4 just got released a few months ago. We're a little behind the times, but I haven't got a chance to play Fallout 4 yet. But I got Caleb Soderbergh here joining me to talk about Fallout 3 because I love Fallout 3. Fallout 3 is a post-apocalyptic RPG. It's an open-world game. It's made by Bethesda Game Studios. These are the same people that make the Elder Scrolls games. So if you heard of Skyrim, Oblivion, those games, this is kind of a similar style of game, except it's set in a post-apocalyptic future. There was nuclear war, and now this is 200 years later, and here you are, someone that's going out into this world for the first time. You're a vault dweller. There are all these vaults. These communities eventually opened up to the greater world, and now you say go. That's basically the game. You're in a vault, and the doors open, and you go.
Yep, for the most part.
Right. Why did you want to do this? Because you brought this to me, Caleb. Like, hey, did you like Fallout 3? I was like, yes, yeah, I did like Fallout 3. Why did you bring it to me? Why was that a topic on your mind?
I've been a fan of the Fallout series for a couple of years now. I started off with Fallout 2, then I brought myself back to Fallout 1. I'm not done with Fallout 1 yet. But then, just recently, I bought Fallout 3 for my Xbox 360, and I started playing it, and my brother made an account also, so we're kind of going through the adventure together. And it's a very different experience than like the previous Fallout games, like Fallout 1 and 2.
But what do you mean? I mean, I've never played the previous Fallouts. I don't think I ever did. I know they're isometric, kind of top-down games, right?
Yeah, they are, and they're very mechanic in the sense that you only have a certain amount of points that you can use when you get into combat. For example, if you move one space, you use up one action point. Or if you shoot a gun, it takes 4 action points.
Is it turn-based?
Yes, and it's very much like Dungeons and Dragons or other like physical pen and paper role-playing games. And the same thing with the skills in the old Fallout games, because it's based off of a roll, and the higher points in that skill you have, the better the roll will be. Right. So it's kind of like that, like chance to succeed type thing.
Is it open world?
Yep, it is. It is open world for sure.
Oh, that's cool.
And in Fallout 1, there's a time limit for at least some part of the game, but. Yeah, it's very different from Fallout 3, where
which was made by different studios, by the way.
Correct. Yes. Fallout 1 and 2 were made by Black Isle. They closed down in the early 2000s, and then Bethesda bought the rights for Fallout, and they made Fallout 3. Actually, Black Isle was in the middle of making Fallout 3. It was, I think the codename was Van Buren. So they were working on that in the late. They started in the late 90s, and then it kind of got scrapped in the early 2000s. There's a playable demo out there, but it's long gone. Like
they had a lot of financial diffifordies, so Bethesda was like, "Hey, we got some money, cha-ching!"
Right, and they just bought it up, and they were like, "Hey, let's just make it a little bit like Elder Scrolls," which is they kind of did.
Or a lot like Elder Scrolls. That's what I think. Have you played the Elder Scrolls games?
I have Skyrim, and
okay.
I'm working out in Skyrim.
Like to me, the games are very similar.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they use the same engine, the Game Bio engine, or whatever updated version that Bethesda's calling it now. But it's the engine they've been using for a while, since Morrowind. So you can really feel how the games, the flow of the games are similar. Like just wander around. There is a main storyline, but you don't have to worry about the main storyline. That's one of the coolest things about this game. It's like, yes, there's a story. There's a central quest. You're trying to find I think you're a vault dweller. Maybe you're trying to find your father. Was that the quest?
Yeah. Yep.
Right. You can just ignore that and be like, I don't care about my father. He sucks.
Yeah. and you'll like, if you go that route, you can just go throughout the wasteland doing other side quests, which is completely fine. There's hundreds of hours of content in Fallout 3, and you can just put off the main quest for as long as you want.
Right.
I mean, you could come back to it. You don't have to.
And you can also, which I always liked with same with the other Bethesda games, you can stumble upon main quest points. Right. So I had this happen to me. I wasn't even trying to do the main quest. I had already beaten the game once with the main quest, but then I played it again. I'm not sure if this was Fallout 3 or maybe Oblivion. And I'm just doing my thing. And I assumed, like, maybe because I was fairly new to open world RPGs, that like, oh, well, if you don't hit these triggers, then these other things won't happen. But I just stumbled upon some arbitrary like main quest point. I'm like, oh, and I just picked up from there. I'm like, well, that's weird. Because you can do that. You can stumble upon things.
I love that in Fallout 3 because
you can find your dad just randomly.
Yeah, and there's even some steps that you take, not even part of the main quest, but just as you said, you stumble across it that lets you skip entire portions of the main quest. Like you'll be like jump started like a couple hours past where you should be. Like for example, there's a quest where you have to get a radio dish for the DJ 3-Dog.
Yes.
And you can skip right by that if you know where to go, because you're getting the radio dish to for 3-Dog, because then he'll tell you where your dad is, which is incidentally Rivet City. But if you're going back for a second playthrough or whatever, you don't even have to do the 3-Dog quest. You can just go straight to Rivet City and bam, you'll pick up on the quest.
And I love that aspect because like I grew up playing Japanese RPGs. I grew up playing the Final Fantasies, the Dragon Warriors in the US, those kind of games. And those kind of games, it didn't matter if you actually knew, oh, well, I know now because I played before that this guy's here. Mm-hmm. If you go here, wait, the guy's not here. Why isn't he here? He's supposed to be here. Because you didn't hit the trigger from the other part you're supposed to go. Here, there's no trigger. The guy, he's like you say, he's always in Rivet City. So you can just go there because you know, because you have a guide, or just because you're exploring the wasteland and you're walking to Rivet City and you go, oh, hey, it's my dad. You know what I mean? It's really cool. I love that aspect. It makes it feel much more like a real world that actually is living and breathing. Because when I grew up on these Japanese RPGs, everything's so static. And so you hit the trigger and then something happens. You hit the trigger and something happens. Here things just happen. Another thing I like about Fallout 3 is the random encounters, which in Fallout New Vegas they got rid of almost all the random encounters and it really pissed me off. But we'll talk about that another day. Right? There's places in the wasteland where there's a percentage chance of something random happening.
Correct.
Right? And all kinds of random stuff can happen, like random fights between robots. Random quests can pop up. It's really interesting.
I love the variety of enemies that will pop up too, because you're just minding your own business, and then bam, suddenly, humongous robot, it starts shooting at you, and you might go back on a save or whatever and go through that same place, and it's not there anymore. One awesome thing that just happened to me just the other day was there's a train track and there's some broken down rail cars or whatever, and I'm searching around and like there's like bags of meat hanging from spikes. I'm just like, this looks like a very dangerous place to be. I'm just looking around, and suddenly I just get smacked in the back. I go flying like 30 feet across the world. Like, no, yeah, I just flew across. And I look behind me, and I look up. I'm just like, oh crap. It's like an 80-foot tall mutant behemoth. It's like this giant guy with a telephone pole in his hands, and he's smacking at me. And I died instantly. I'm just like, what? Was he supposed to be there? But then I went back on a save because I died, and I went to the same spot, and he didn't show up. I'm just like, that was like the weirdest random event I've ever seen.
And that's one of the other things. They got rid of the mutant the giant behemoths. What are they called? I can't think of those things they call the super mutants.
Yeah.
The giant super mutants. They got rid of that in Fallout New Vegas, which, anyways, I don't want to talk too much about Fallout New Vegas, but it's kind of like a spin-off of Fallout 3. And I found it weird how they got rid of those big creatures. Because I always liked those big creatures, because you're like, holy crap, look how big it is.
Yeah.
Right?
And about the behemoths, this is kind of a side topic, but if you shoot them with something, like for example bullets, and you kill the behemoth, when you loot the body, you'll get your bullets back.
Yep, they got so much stuff that they have. It's awesome.
Yeah. It's just like, oh, I'm just throwing my bullets back, you know. But what when you went through the first time playing Fallout 3, what was your character build? Like what was your character best at?
Oh, this is gonna be tough. Because I have a strategy when I play these games. When I play any Bethesda game or an open world RPG, my general strategy is I actually do a first playthrough that's quick and brief, and I just focus on the main quest and don't do anything else. So I might just breeze through it in 25 hours. Then I go back and I methodically explore the wasteland. I usually don't do the main quest. I just do whatever I want. But my build, ooh, that's a tough one. I usually play similar characters, so I'm gonna guess now, because this was 6 years ago or so when I played this game heavily, that I probably had a sniper, big sniper role. I always liked being the sniper and gunning down guys from a distance. That's what I have gotten. Lock picking skills, like kind of scavenger, thief, good like a chaotic good character like from Dungeons and Dragons is the kind of person I play. He's kind of a little bit outside. I mean, there's no law in Fallout 3, but like I'm like generally nice to people. But if I gotta grab something here, grab something there, I gotta survive. So I would use skills that would help me do that. But it's hard for me to remember now my exact build.
Yeah, I kind of had the same playthrough of what you did. Is I started off with a high strength. Which allows you to hit harder if like you have a melee weapon or something, and allows you to carry more gear with you.
The gear carrying would matter to me, not the melee weapon. I rarely did melee.
Yeah, and I also put some points into perception, which increases your gun skill and your accuracy. So what I did is I put most of my points into small guns, which includes pistols and rifles, and lock picking, like you said, because I know there's a lot of doors in the game and a lot of locked chests that have some really awesome loot in it. So I just put a lot in that, and then what's my last skill? I can't remember what it was, but yeah, basically it was that the character that could just shoot anything and steal anything.
Did you? I've noticed in playing Fallout, both Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas, that I specifically would not put any points into, like, say, laser weapons or big guns. I'd always focus all my points into usually small arms, and then the big ones wherever the one that has the sniper rifle kind of guns into. Because if you spread them around, it doesn't seem to help you in any way. Right? It's better just to focus on a few weapon types and a bunch of weapon types. It just makes you weaker in all of them. It doesn't really do much.
Yep. I don't think I've put a single skill point into big guns, which includes like miniguns and rocket launchers.
Okay, yeah, the exact, yeah. So, you know, like, and the thing is, you can still use these weapons if you get them, right? You're just not as effective.
But. Yeah, like your shot will go wide, right. You know, and you know if you're better at it, you could hit them on target every single time. But I find it curious that you didn't put any points into energy weapons, because later on in the game, the energy weapons are like one of the best types of weapons out there.
Yeah, I never did. I didn't find them interesting, I guess. Maybe just. I just wanted my big thing was basically the sniper. I wanted to get the sniper rifle, right, and start sniping people. Yeah, like and I never liked the melee combat. That's one. It's hard for me to call it a flaw, but to me it's kind of awkward. It's like it's stiff, right? It's fun. Maybe you got a bat, you want to bash somebody. I always like that methodical shooting from a distance, and then sneaking around so no one can hear me. Oh, snipe them, go behind the corner, try to, not confront them head on. Or what I really like to doing is get into a crossfire. Like you get super mutants and like bandits fighting each other.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
I always loved how you could do that, and like the Elder Scrolls games too. Is like I remember playing Oblivion for the first time and just be walking around and go, wait a second, why is that wolf is attacking that dude? Is this scripted? No. That dude's just walking by and the wolf just attacked him. Yeah. I love that aspect of the world.
And that also kind of comes into play with random events.
Yes.
World as well, because one type of random event is you come across a band of hunters, and they can trade you some meat that they've been out collecting or whatever. And one of the funniest things I ever came across in this game is there's just a bunch of hunters there. They're all smoking. I go up to one of them and I talk and I'm like, hey, what's up? They're like, oh yeah, we just got back from hunting. Would you like some strange meat? I'm like, I'm good for right now. I don't want any strange meat. I turn around to leave and there's just like a head on the ground. I'm just like, I look like 5 feet away and there's like a body. And then I'm just like these hunters just killed this guy and are trying to sell me strange meat. Something's happening here. But the random events in this game are just fantastic. But let's go a little bit more in depth about the quests. So you said the first thing we went through, you were talking about, you went just primarily the main quest.
I just did the main quest. I ignored, there's all kinds of other stuff you can do. I didn't even go to all the major locations. I mean, if you just do the main quest, like a huge swath of the map, you're never even directed to go there.
Yeah, most of the missions are on the right side of the map.
Yes.
Yeah, the Wasteland is usually on the left, but the main quest just brings you... Oh, we should also say that Fallout 3 is set in a post-apocalyptic version of Washington, D.C. So you're going to see a lot of different landmarks.
Yeah, I always thought that was cool, seeing the landmarks. You can go like into the Smithsonian. You can see the Washington Monument, the mall. I mean, it's really cool.
And also another funny thing is that the Bethesda Game Studios is actually... I don't know if it still is, but it used to be located in Washington, D.C., so that you can actually go to the Bethesda studio building in the game. I'm just like, those guys must have fun creating that. But, like, all the missions take place on that right side of the map, which I thought was, not a wise move, because they have all, like, the Wasteland is so open and massive, and they reserve that for side quests, which is fine.
Right, see, to me, that was an issue, because I'd played other games where Bethesda does that, where you need, like, say, Oblivion. You don't even have to go to all the cities in Oblivion to beat the main quest. There's multiple ones you can just completely ignore. It's like there are whole towns and cities with tons of quests and whatnot. In Fallout New Vegas, though, you probably would have liked it. They did a better job of the main quest covering the map. They actually specifically kind of walks you around the map. Some people actually complained about this, where it's like, well, it kind of just walks me around the whole map. I don't really like that. So there's actually some backlash about that. So to me, it didn't bother me that it didn't spread me around the Wasteland, because that was a different thing. That was an adventure. I like the Wild West aspect of it. Like, what am I getting into?
Right.
I really enjoyed that.
Yeah. And
I didn't need the main quest. Like the main quest was fine. I never found it particularly amazing, except for the end sequence is awesome. When you're with that giant robot.
Yep. Liberty Prime.
Liberty Prime. Oh man.
It's like you see him stomping across, the wilderness with
Brotherhood of Steel.
Brotherhood of Steel, like all those other allies, and he just marched across. And he goes like.
And he keeps saying anti-communist. I can't remember the things he says, but they're like anti-communist slogans.
Yeah.
Like.
But that part is just so awesome. One of the complaints I have about this game is that the Brotherhood of Steel, as a whole, in the first two Fallout games, they were kind of like this secretive group that wanted to mass technology in order to save the human race. They didn't really worship technology. They were more of just collectors and preserving the human race. Anyway, but in the first two games, you would stumble upon them kind of randomly. You would see one guy in a full suit of power armor, and you'd be like, "Oh, who's that guy?" He'd be like, "Hello, citizen. We are the Brotherhood of Steel. We are here to do blah 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 blah." And then he's like, "If you want to find out more, talk to another representative." So I'm like, "Okay." So I looked around the town that he was in, and I found a junkyard. I'm like, "Is this where he wants me to go?" So I went to the junkyard, and there was a secret entrance. I went down, and it was just this huge military base of just Brotherhood of Steel, and they give you awesome quests. They give you awesome rewards. They tell you how to use your power armor in the first place. In Fallout 3, it doesn't really do that. They do teach you how to use and wear power armor, but for the most part, they're just I didn't like the quest line that they gave. They were a little part of the main quest line a little bit, but they basically just send you off on fetch quests where it's like, oh, go get me this, go get me that, go talk to this person.
Did you play Fallout New Vegas?
I have not. No.
Okay, Fallout New Vegas is it's actually developed by some of the original members of Black Isle Studios. So because Bethesda did not handle the day-to-day development of that, so they passed it off. But they're using Fallout 3's engine and everything. So really, it's like a collaborative effort. But since they're part of the original team, some of the lore and stuff has been adjusted more. It's also back on the West Coast. I think it's in Nevada it takes place in, and things like the Brotherhood of Steel. The way you're describing it, they sounds more like how they are in Fallout New Vegas than Fallout 3, which might be more appropriate. It might be more like the original because it actually has original team members.
Yeah, that's what I heard about, and I heard a couple of dev blogs, and they were actually talking about how. Some fans had backlash regarding the Brotherhood in Fallout 3, so when they went to make New Vegas, they were like, "Oh, let's make it more like the old Brotherhood that fans like." So I mean, as a whole, Brotherhood of Steel, hit or miss. I mean, some people like them, some people don't. I personally don't. It doesn't really matter. But
To me, that maybe if I played the two original games, I would have picked up on that. To me, it was just there's another faction. There's another group that's out there in the wasteland. It worked. It was fine.
Mm-hmm. So you said that your character build was kind of chaotic neutral. Chaotic good.
That's how I played the character.
Yeah,
How whenever I play any open world RPG, I always play essentially the same character. The character's name, depending on if it's like a history fantasy thing, it's Michael. If it's more modern, like Fallout 3, it's Mike. It's always a character with silver long hair. If I can, I try to make one eye green, one eye blue. Right? I'm very pale skinned. I always play the same character essentially.
Yeah, but
and they're always chaotic.
Yeah.
Good.
I ask you that because one of the major choices that you make very early in the game is you go to the town of Megaton, which is basically a town built around a unexploded, undetonated nuclear bomb.
Right.
And there's a faction in there that kind of worships the bomb. They're called the Children of the Atom. So they're like, oh, this is the thing that gives us life. Crazy hippies. Anyway, you get to make a choice in that town. You can either disarm the bomb to make sure it doesn't blow up forever, or you can talk to a evil character and set it off. So did you do that type of thing? That's kind of like a side quest, sort of. Did you ever?
I did that. I did do that once, and then I reloaded. I just wanted to see the explosion in the game.
Okay.
But no, I never make really evil choices. I don't like going on killing sprees in those games. I only did it once, and I think it was in Fallout 3. I never did it in Oblivion or Morrowind. I don't know. I feel like one of the things I like about being in those games is I put myself into that game. I don't. In real life, I don't get off from mindlessly slaughtering people, right? So it's a game, right? So you do some crazy stuff. But like I've never played an evil character.
Mm-hmm.
Not a single time I've actually had an actual playthrough. I've done, let's do something crazy for 10 minutes, then reload.
Yeah.
Like the actual evil character. I'm gonna play the bad guy throughout the game. I've never actually done that in any open world RPG.
Mm-hmm.
It just
Yeah, neither have I.
It's hard for me. It's hard for me. It's like
Yeah, yeah.
I feel bad. I'm like, oh, let's make the evil decision and take the family's winter supply of food. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I can't help myself.
Yeah, I felt the same way. I was given the choice, to do whatever with the bomb, and I realized, this is the wrong thing to do. I don't want to kill this entire town, And also another motivator was that there were some awesome rewards that I could get from doing certain tasks for people in that town. So I'm just like, I don't want to blow it up because then I'll lose all those rewards.
Yeah, that's another thing too, because there's a bunch of quests there.
Yeah, and especially one of the biggest side quests in the game is you're helping write a survival guide, and you get depending on how
that quest doesn't go away if you blow it up.
Oh really?
She turns into a ghoul.
Really? I did not know.
Because I went back to the site after I blew it up, and I walked, and then there she is. Hey, what's up? And she's a ghoul now, but she still has the quest.
That's awesome. Well,
so but all the other quests go away.
Oh yeah.
But hers, she becomes a ghoul.
Yeah, and she's so annoying and persistent. She's like, "Hello, would you write my book?" And
but it's fun. I love doing that quest line. It's like 9 quests.
Yeah, and you there's even optional objectives. Like you could get the mission done, but you can get it done in an extra special way and get another reward, which is always awesome. So,
yeah.
Personally, I think that's one of my favorite quests that I've done so far in the game, just because she gives you a variety of things. I don't like her as a character, but she does give you awesome rewards depending on what you do.
I actually, now that you remind me of that quest, I love that site. That's one of those things that you stumble upon. I mean, you're walking around, a lot of people can give you quests. You get a quest, you do a mission, standard fetch quest, whatever, standard kill a monster thing, whatever. They spice it up in some way. But then you stumble upon her, and it's this whole huge. She's basically like a faction. She has so many quests she gives you.
And she sends you all across the land, so you'll get some exploring done if you do her quests, regardless. But yeah, I liked her quest line. Let's stop talking about Megaton. Let's go on. Do you remember anything about Tranquility Lane, which is like that artificial world that you go into?
Yes, and it has the tree dude.
Yes. No, what it was like the black and white world where it's like you're going back to the 50s era.
Oh, okay, never mind. I thought you meant the Oasis.
I know what you're talking about, the tree dude, though, because that's actually a cameo from a character from Fallout 1 and 2, which I will tell Shane about after the show. But that's a really really sneaky cameo. Anyway, but
interesting. I didn't know that.
I'll tell you about.
But I really like that aspect because you kind of come upon this place and you're like, oh, it's a forest. That's cool.
Yeah.
Because the wasteland's all dreary and horrible.
But Tranquility Lane, which is like that. It's part of the main quest where you find a vault and you go into a slumber and you get put into this artificial computer world kind of.
Yep.
And it's kind of like a 50s era utopia basically, and you're trying to tell people this is a computer simulation, and they're like, oh, just run along. And I should also say that when you go into that simulation, you go into it as a little boy. So people are like, oh, just run along, little boy. They don't really care about you, even though you're actually an adult in the real game. And you kind of creepy. Do you remember anything about that?
I just remember because they also used that simulation for one of the DLCs, but instead of sending you back to the pre-war days, it sends you back to the point where they're actually just starting to be at war. So you go to Alaska and you're a soldier in Alaska. Right? This is right when the war is actually ongoing. Right? But they use the same machine to send you back. Remember, it's a simulator, but it's basically sent back in time. That's the. But I don't remember too well. That's an objective too. I think you can skip on the main quest. Can't you?
No, because your dad's there.
Oh, so you have to do that one.
Yeah.
Remember, it's been a while since I played this game. I played it for over 150 hours. It's been a while.
Yeah.
So the details are a little fuzzy.
But I went in. I at the very beginning, I crawled into the pod that would allow me to go into this world, and a TV comes down onto my eyes, kind of via Oculus Rift, and it just starts doing that the old TV type thing with the dartboard and that testing signal or whatever, and suddenly a girl's face appears and then disappears. I'm just like, what have I got myself into? It's actually one of the creepiest parts of the game.
Now that I'm thinking more about it, I actually am bothered by that aspect of the game because it locks you in. As in, you're stuck in that world until you complete certain objectives.
Yeah, but it is part of the main quest.
Right, but I just don't like that. Because you're really stuck. Usually, in any of the games, you can just walk away. Like you're in the middle of a quest. All right, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm going to do something else. You're stuck there until you complete certain objectives.
Yeah.
To get out of that world.
Yeah.
Unless if you don't have a save beforehand, which you always got to make sure you should have ongoing saves. Just pro tip. Right. I remember like going into it and realizing like I don't want to do this right now. But then I stupidly saved or whatever. I'm like, now I have to complete this.
Mm-hmm.
Where usually you don't have that. You can just like, I'm just gonna walk back this way. So walk back to that door and I'll come back later.
I think that choice of doing that quest inside the simulation, you being stuck there, not being able to go anywhere else, I think that ties into what you actually have to do inside because
it adds to the tension of the quest.
Yeah, exactly. It kind of ties into the thing like, oh, I don't want to do this right now. I want to do another quest. But in the simulation, you have to do the quest because it kind of makes you feel angry toward the guy / girl. It's creepy giving you the quest because he/she tells you, oh, go break up this marriage, go make this
right. You have to do a bunch of horrible
whatever.
things,
and he's forcing you to do it. You can't do anything else until you do it. So it kind of makes you feel like a jerk and angry at this guy that he's forcing you to do these atrocious acts. And then finally, at the end, he tells you to kill everyone, and you can't escape from that unless you have a save, like you said. But to progress with those quests, you have to kill everyone.
Yeah.
Or there's a workaround if you're particularly, intuitive, but it kind of ties into that villain's character where you can't do anything else except for follow what he says.
We've been talking for a while. I want to touch on one other thing before we get to our scores. Is you played this game on Xbox 360?
Yeah.
I played it on PC. To me, that's where you want to play these games because, like I said, I played it for over 150 hours. I played it unmodded for about 20-something hours. And after that, I played with a bunch of mods that altered the game. And like the biggest, like some of the major mods that altered the game for me was like I found the world too dreary, too depressing. I was like, oh, the ugly green sky, everything's dead.
Yeah, the graphics are very plain.
They're very, very plain. Like actually in New Vegas, they changed that. There's a blue sky. There's some vegetation. It's post-apocalyptic, but it's not like it's not just exceedingly dreary. And you can go to Las Vegas and it's all kinds of lights and stuff. So I used a number of mods to make it more greenery. I used a mod that added more greenery, changed a lot of the plants from brown to green. It changed the sky from that ugly yellow green to a nice blue sky. So I used a number of mods where I just made I got rid of trash and litter. I couldn't stand how every building I walked into is full of trash and litter on the ground. You can see characters sweeping sometimes. I'm like, but there's trash all over the ground.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense, right? People don't just live in, just because people are in this environment, it's still their home. They wouldn't just have trash all over the ground. So it actually moves all the miscellaneous trash in people's house is all across the wasteland. Like man, it must have been really tedious. So I used a number of these mods, and I used a number of interface mods because the one thing, the biggest problem I have with this game was actually the interface. And I don't know how this is with a controller, but with the keyboard, the interface is obnoxious. If there's a delay, just going into the Pip-Boy screen, it's like click for inventory, click off. I'm like, what is this? You click, it goes instantly, right? Like when I played more, I click, there it is. Click off, there it is, right? In and out, because I go in and out of the inventory. Now I say click, so I use the mod to make that speed up like 4 times faster, right? I use the mod so the inventory screen had a lot more information on it. Half the screen is not used for any information. Half the screen is just your hand and other shit. Only like half the screen is actually used for actual information. It's terrible UI. This design is unacceptable, and they continue to use design in Bethesda, and it just baffles me. It's like you're not using your screen space well. You're not being able to navigate this in an intuitive way, right? And I know one of the problems is because of the consoles. There's a different kind of navigation you're using with the controller. But for PC, it's obnoxious. So I used a variety of mods basically to make things easier to interact with in the world and make things look a little nicer. I never use like mods like power up your weapons or stuff like that. That I don't like playing that. I don't like God mode or whatever. I just like mods to tweak things so things will just more to my flavor.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I can understand that.
And I also use the mod that add a button a hotkey for throwing grenades. So I could shoot and throw a grenade. I had to
awesome.
cycle through things.
Yeah.
Right. I used a mod. I used mods that made the first person shooting aspect like tighter. So to me, like that's a big part of Bethesda games is your ability to customize things. You do PC game, right?
Yeah, I do, but I have not. I don't play Fallout 3 on PC. So
But why is that? Why did you choose to get it for Xbox 360?
Well, just because I want a high quality viewing experience. Because if I bought it on PC, I know that I would have to run it on low graphics settings.
Oh, you don't have a good PC.
No, I don't have a gaming PC.
That's your problem. Okay.
But it's a decent laptop, but it's not a gaming PC.
Yeah, laptop.
Anyway. Yeah. So I wanted like the best experience possible. For relatively cheap price, because it's still relatively expensive on Steam, but I got it used at GameStop for my Xbox. I'm just like, oh, it's a couple dollars. I haven't played a console Fallout game before, so I might as well try it. And it works, like what you're saying about the UI, it works relatively well with a controller. It's definitely very tedious with a mouse and keyboard. With a controller, it's just like, you have the thumbstick and you go slide, 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 it's done. You're there. But the only bad thing about console versions of this game is that you can't get mods, which I'm very disappointed about.
To me, it's really all about the modding, because one of the reasons I got into these games is like I grew up on those Japanese RPGs and I really loved them. But I'm a guy that's really picky. I like to have things my way, and I just want to go do what I want when I want. I'm like, oh wow, I played Morrowind. I played on Xbox originally, Morrowind, and I'm like, this is a cool game. You can just go over and do whatever you want. And then I played for like 40 hours. I'm like, this is a cool game. And then I got on PC like 2 years later. And I'm like, oh my god, I can change this game in any way I want to be exactly how I want it to be. I can basically like create your own RPG. And I couldn't go back. I couldn't go back to playing. Well, actually nowadays with Fallout 4, they say they're gonna have mods for console. But those mods still are going to be more limited than PC, just because of the natures of consoles. But we've been talking for on and on and on about this game. We've already oh my god, we're over half now. This is absurdity.
It's such a good game, though.
It is such a good game. What are you going to give it as for a score?
I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10.
I am also going to give it a 9 out of 10. Remember, I'm scoring for PC. I can't comment on console. You're scoring for Xbox 360. Now, the mod thing, people don't like to bring this up. To me, the mod thing kind of brings it up higher, but I know it's not separate. It's a separate thing. But if you have the opportunity, I would say go with the PC if you have the opportunity because of the mods. But otherwise, it's a great game regardless. And really, there's already so much content in it. A lot of people are like, yeah, the mods are cool, but I don't have 300 hours to try all these mods too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right.
And certain mods don't work together, so you kind of have to like pick like compatible mods.
Right.
Which is also another whole thing.
Right. The mining is super easy. Right. They do make it pretty easy, but it's not quite like a drag and drop. No, there's incompatibilities. You got to learn a little bit about technology and a little bit about things. So there's a little bit of a learning curve, which is another reason why people like consoles. Like, well, I shove the disc in or whatever, I turn it on, there you go. Exactly. I'm good to go. Yeah. PC's like, oh, I got the right driver. Oh man, I gotta update this. And it's annoying. But anyways, we give it 9. Both of us gave it 9 out of 10. Check out Fallout 3. My name is Shane Gertz. This has been Caleb Soderberg, and we're Geeks at the Movies.
See you guys.